What's going on, guys? Gary with RAS Group to another video. Today a little bit of an educational piece, and that is finding the dot quickly off the draw. Probably one of the biggest issues I see in newer shooters, people that are relatively new to the dot, people switching from irons to a dot, all these different things. People lose the dot on the draw. They draw and they're fishing there forever trying to find it. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some key things to look for, some cues. I'm very big on having cues of how to ingrain things into my mind, right? Certain things to look for, trigger something else, right? I'm looking for a stimulus to cause a reaction. So we're going to talk about a few of those things. So today we're going to go over 3 things that you can do to try to have a more predictable deliverance of your dot each and every time. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, so number 1 is going to be being extremely visually disciplined to a small spot on the target. I have a black paster in the center of this USPSA target, right? Now, once you get to a certain point, I encourage you to take away that black paster as soon as you can, right? As little minimal assistance as we have on the visual end of things, the better. But if you're just starting out, that is a very definitive small reference point on the target. Why does vision matter? So the first thing you need to understand is that the more you can narrow your focus, right? The whole aim small, miss small thing, the more we can narrow that margin of error, the better predictability we're going to have of delivering that dot to our eye line, right? If I just look at the broadside of a barn and I just throw my hand up there saying the gun's going to be relatively pointed in that direction, a pointing of the gun does not mean a deliverance of the dot to my eye line. So we need to be extremely diligent in what we're actually focusing on. Eyes will always command the hands. That is a universal truth, right? Whether we're throwing a ball, we're driving, we're shooting, eyes command the hands. So the first thing I need to be very honest with myself about, because people will tell you, oh, I'm looking at a small spot. Well, judging by some predictable patterns that we know can happen on the target, that's not always the case. Always aim for something smaller than what you think you actually need. So for me, I'm going to be looking at the black paster. That's a 1-inch black paster on a very large brown piece of cardboard. Color contrast, size, it all makes sense. I'm going to use that to really drive my vision to a particular spot each and every time. Always picking a small spot. Let's talk about the next one. God, I really hope the wind isn't fucking crushing this audio quality right now. I'll be so upset. So the second thing I'm going to look for, and this is getting into the hyper specifics, this is getting into the cues, right? Is I want to make sure that as I'm presenting the gun, I'm presenting it underneath my dominant eye each and every time, right? Now this is important for a couple of reasons. One, I cannot be placing my gun in a different spot in front of my face if I ever hope to do anything consistently and predictably. Never going to happen. So aligning it underneath my dominant eye and being conscious about that is achieving that right there, right? I'm minimizing the variables that can affect what's going to happen once I present the gun out in front of me. Past that, once you learn about target focus and you know what target focus is, some of you maybe have, some of you maybe haven't. Either way, we need to give each eye has a job. The job of the dominant eye is traditionally, and I say that because some people are cross-eye dominant, but the job of the dominant eye is traditionally to keep track of the sighting system in reference to the target. Not focus on the target, that's going to be the job of our other eye. If I do this, right, and I present it underneath my dominant eye each and every time, the dot's there. Now, if I try to do something weird to present it center line of my body, dot's there, but that's sheer luck. Contrary to what most people believe, I don't want to actually present the gun from center line of my chest, my body right here. I want to offset it underneath my dominant eye. That frees up a lot of the visual barrier for my non-dominant eye to actually look through the target and target focus, right? Now, we just talked about that our eyes command the hands. Well, if I need to pick a small spot on the target, I need to be focused on that small spot. I do not need to obstruct the eye that's actually doing the focusing of the target, right? So we're accomplishing a few things here. We're minimizing the variables of where we're actually presenting the gun each and every time. We are eliminating the visual obstruction that is happening to the eye that's actually focusing on the target, because we always have to adhere to that higher rule, target focus, and I need to pick a small spot. Well, if you have a bunch of shit blocking your eye, that's going to be a little bit of a problem, right? That's what I thought. All right, on to the next thing. All right, the last thing is something that is a little specific. You might not really have thought about it before, but I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to this if you're somebody who's continuously losing the dot. When you present the gun, I need to make sure I'm picking that small spot, that I'm presenting the gun in the same place every single time. To me, I teach people to present it underneath their dominant eye. I believe that makes the most sense. The third thing to be conscious of, and I think a lot of people are losing the dot or wasting time finding the dot because of this, is upon retrieving the pistol from your holster, you need to ensure that the way you're presenting it and that grip angle that you have established is keeping the slide parallel to the ground. Why the slide? I have all this room to tell that it's level. Well, if the slide's level, my dot is level. What I don't want to do is be like presenting my gun in a weird way and it go, oh shit, there it is. Or the thing I see people do most often, which is popular by some instructors, I don't traditionally agree with this, is locking the gun down at the end. Now, I hyper exaggerated that, I'll give it its due credit, right? And you drop the gun down in, the dot drops from 12 o'clock. Now, to me, that's wasting time. If I can just understand what my grip angle should be out of the holster, right? Get my slide parallel to the ground, present the gun up and out, oh my God, there's my dot. I looked at the camera, raised the gun, turned back, my dot is dead center of my window. That's predictability. The problem is a lot of people do not take the time to understand what their grip angle is and how that interferes with, you know, the presentation of the pistol and then finding the dot, right? A lot of people just take it for granted whatever the grip angle of their pistol is. And they never take the time to actually make a note of like what angle does my wrist have to be at, right? To make sure that slide is parallel with the ground, because there's a distinct difference from this to this, right? That is, that's not even quite parallel. There we go. Now it's up to my eye line. There's my dot. So if just a little bit of this, no dot. This, dot. No dot, dot. No dot, dot. It takes that much of a difference in your grip angle to either have the dot or not have the dot. So understanding and being hyper diligent on when I present the gun, okay, I'm fixated on a small spot, presenting the gun in the same way every time underneath my dominant eye, slides parallel to the ground. I guarantee if you invoke these three things, you will find the dot more consistently, quicker, be less of a struggle, and then maybe we can stop having people tell me that, you know, they really think their iron sights are better for them. It's not a thing, it's just a lack of willing to learn or a lack of understanding how to acquire the dot, use the dot, all these things. So hopefully, as we're sitting out here in the rain, I know the camera lens is probably getting all fucky, I apologize, but I do want to do a couple demos, so I'm gonna end kind of the discussion part here. Hopefully those things help. I'm gonna do a couple demos and hopefully it shows you guys that, you know, I can achieve a pretty easy sub-second draw onto this black paster at 5 yards without really needing to work for it, just based on being efficient with those principles. All right, here we go. All right, guys, as you can see there, that's my demo of 3 shots. Nothing, you know, too crazy. Definitely a weird with this holster. I'm not used to this MSP holster. I was using it to demo a different gun earlier. Figured I'd just leave it on. Really no excuse. So we were at, I believe, a 9.3 and a 102 with those 2 shots that were kind of close down there. I think that upper one was my first one, and it was just a horrible presentation. I was not visually disciplined, and I broke that shot up there. I saw the dot there and I just sent it anyway. I don't know why. That was a stupid move. But 100%, I didn't lose my dot when I did the things I needed to do. And at 5 yards on a 1-inch black paster, you're not going to have this type of consistency just guessing and throwing the gun up, right? I'm within, let's see, about an inch and a half of the black paster. Dropped it a little low. That makes sense. I parked the dot right on the paster. I have a 25-yard zero at 5 yards. I need to hold high if I actually want to hit the black paster. So hopefully this helps, guys. Not the greatest demo in the world, but what are you going to do is what it is. Either way, it's going to help you find your dot quicker and better each and every time. Make sure you guys check out the sponsors, check out the website, check out the social media. Really appreciate you guys checking out the video. Stay safe, stay trained, stay rad. I'll be back in the next one.